All right, founders, it is time for another pitch deck critique and review. And this time we've got Casa Shares. This is a real estate investment app. And spoiler alert, this startup has already raised $2.2 million raised. And full disclosure, I am advising this startup and helping this startup, have been helping them with their raise, with their pitch decks, everything involved. And they are getting VC interest. And there are very good reasons that there is already lots of great interest from the market happening right now, raising $2.2 million in this market today in the nuclear winter of our funding environment. That is no small joke. And by the end of this, you are either going to want to invest or you're going to take $100 and you're going to want to go to the website and actually get involved with this and start investing in real estate using Casa Shares. And if you want an introduction to this founder, if you want to get network with them, let me know. Happy to make that introduction. Before we continue, my name is Ed Kang. If we met before, nice to see you again. Thanks for dropping by. Use the chapter markers, as always, to skip right to the good part of the video. Make it as easy as possible for you. If we haven't met, I'm a 7-time funded founder with 2 exits, and that's just a fancy way of saying I failed a bunch of times to your benefit because I use YouTube videos of this channel to help founders, especially early stage founders raising early stage capital, avoid some of the catastrophic mistakes that I've made. Not to say you're not going to make mistakes, but I'm going to try to make your life a little bit easier because it is tough enough as it is. I'm also the Chief Strategy Officer for Startups.com. If you're already a member, thank you so much for your support, being part of the community. If you haven't checked this out yet, go to Startups.com right now. A lot of free resources there for you. And while everybody's here, do the YouTube thing. Like, comment, subscribe. Helps me out a lot. Let me know what you're thinking. Love to have a conversation with you. Let's jump into this pitch deck critique and review. Right away, what I like about this is that it says real estate investing for all under Casa Shares. This is what's called a purpose statement, and it explains exactly what the startup does. It's not a buzzy, hypey slogan that just kind of leads you nowhere and you have no idea what it is. It's just very straightforward, but it's put in a way that creates a sense of purpose. This is what we're trying to do. And it doesn't get all buzzy and hypey saying, oh, we are democratizing this and blah, blah, revolutionizing, disrupting. It's just straightforward real estate investing for all. I know what this app does. I know what the startup does. It's the same thing as if you had a description saying we're a real estate app for the retail investor. And that's the difference between a purpose statement and just a regular startup description. Both work exactly the same, by the way. Use them wisely. If you can pull off the purpose description, go for it. Here's the problem statement. Now, problem, solution, market size, that's where we're going to spend most of our time. And I went back and forth with this founder, refining this, and finally we got to something that I really like. It says over 75 million Americans want to invest in real estate, but are locked out by current house prices, high down payments, and traditional loan requirements, representing $300 billion in potential capital. Remember, I always say this. You want to talk about who has the problem, and then I want to know size, scope, and severity of the problem. That's all I want. And notice how this is one sentence. It is just one stark sentence. Don't need a lot of bullet points. And so do I know who has a problem? Yeah, Americans that want to invest in real estate. How many are there? 75 million of them. But they're locked out. This is the scope because of high prices, down payments, and traditional loan requirements. And the severity, if we don't solve this, is we're leaving $300 billion in potential capital on the table. That is a straightforward chef's kiss problem statement. One sentence. You will see the vast difference between this problem statement and so many other pitch decks that I review on this channel. I'm already digging it as an investor. Then the solution side, Casa Shares app makes real estate investing available to everyone in 5 minutes. So now we're talking about all the friction that happens in the problem. We're addressing that, starting with as little as $100 without any other traditional home ownership requirements. Straightforward. Remember, I always say, if your problem is something is slow, manual, expensive, your solution says this is what we do, and it's fast, automated, and so much cheaper. Let's verify exactly what I'm talking about here. If you go to the problem, they are linked. 75 million Americans want to invest in real estate, but are locked out by house prices, high down payment, and traditional loan requirements. The solution, you can do it in 5 minutes with as little as $100 without the traditional home ownership requirements. Bang, bang. These are great problem solution slides. You see how stark and boring these slides are, but that's okay. Investors are still responding and saying, hey, I'd like more information because it's super clear, not clever. We're clean, clear, and concise. Here's the market size. Our focus is on younger generation app-enabled retail investors representing a $140 billion market. Focus is going to be on your SAM, And that's what we got going on already. So the TAM is 75 million right here. And that is the total locked out real estate investors. And then we've got SAM, which are the 35 million that are Gen Z enabled. And then we're talking about 1 million Casa Shares users share the market, 1 million potential users. Notice how we only have one total number, 140 billion. That's all we need. This is more the Airbnb type TAM, SAM, SOM, where we talk about the volume, 75 million, 35, and then 1 million. Now, notice something that we're going to point out. See this number, 75 million on the left. If I go all the way back to the problem, 75 million. Your problem statement, market size, and your TAM, market size, have now lined up. So many founders make this mistake, and this is a gorgeous example of how it's done right. So I go back and I say 75 million, that's the total market, but I'm going to focus on app-enabled retail investors, and that equates to a $140 billion market. How it works. Notice this headline right here. Now, anyone can invest in real estate from their phone. Remember, we just said younger app-enabled people, and this statement says this is what the customers want. And we're just very straightforward. 1, 2, 3 steps. So simple. Select a property. Got it. I'm going to claim my shares and I'm going to sit back. And that just talks about what the convenience is, that this has solved the problem for me. If I'm locked out of real estate, eventually it's just to set it and forget it. That's why I love this sit back. And now we've got these bullet points that answer the questions that go through the investor's mind. The investor wants to know, well, how is this regulated? Well, we're already SEC qualified for inclusion, retail, handpick prime investment properties. This is how we're going to get the property. And then it's flexibility, more details from $100 or $10,000, no loan or credit applications, no price barriers to entry. Notice how we're backing up the promise in the problem and the solution. And that's the reason this deck is aligned. It's cohesive. I understand it. And then straight off, hands-off management, no geographic restraints, build a diverse portfolio. What's not to like? Again, how it works small with this stark summary headline sentence. These are all best practices put into work. Business model. Again, look how straightforward stark this is. We make a minimum of 15% on each transaction. And now, wow, unit economics, everyone. I love it. These are the details that are included. Why? This startup is battle tested, meaning that it's been out in the market. And I know a lot of founders, can't put these types of slides together because you're not launched. You're not selling. Well, the moral of the story is get out there and start selling so you can actually explain these are what the unit economics are. This is the average account value. Great. Awesome. And that creates a $600 LTV on 15% transaction. That happening right here. This slide is so simple, allows me to understand. Notice how this doesn't have like 10 different revenue streams where you definitely could. Why? This founder understands that we need to go dominate one line of business, one type of revenue stream, because it's hard enough as it is to get that one thing going. So we're just going to charge 15%, and it's broken down into 6% upfront sourcing fee plus an annual assets under management fee over a 6-year period, 15%. Like I said, what's not to really like about this? And the best part is that even me as an investor, if I'm reading this, I'm now thinking about it as a consumer. And now you've got this double whammy here. And like I said, you would definitely be interested in investing. Now, I want to show you something really cool about this. What it says in the deck and what is actually happening out there in the public line up. If I go to the website, Real Estate Investing for All, that was the tagline. I love it. It's a cohesive brand. Straight out, own shares of investment real estate from the comfort of your phone. Lines up with what we're pitching on the pitch deck. It's right there. Now look at where they have been featured. Fox, NBC. That's fantastic. Now, one complaint I have, this is definitely not in the pitch deck. Want to see you include that. But all the explanation is there. The value proposition. Get in on real estate investing with just $100. This is so straightforward, and it's going to give you an idea of why this startup is raising already, because they have the proof. If someone does due diligence on this startup, it backs it up. Look at, select properly, claim shares, sit back. Where have I seen that before? I've seen that in the pitch deck. That's what I love about this. Here are all the benefits. And this is talking to the customer. Become a real estate investor in minutes. Whereas the pitch deck says, hey, we know how to talk to customers, and therefore you're going to want to invest in us because we know how to get in the market. And we're proving it with everything that we do, and you're going to see the traction in just a moment. Like I said, I know why this startup is raising $2.2 million so far. We're going to get them to $3 million total, $800K away. I don't think this should be a problem, which brings me to my next point. It's easy to do a pitch deck, and it's easy to do investor relations for a company like this. It's a slam dunk. And that's the moral of this story. If you want to make this easier, make your startup fundable. Make it so that investors look and say, my goodness, look at what they've done without any major VC backing. And I know this founder, holy cow, they are on top of it. This founder contacts me on a regular basis, says, I got this question, I got that question, squeezing everything out of me to figure out how to do things better. And it's always talking me through their plans. They're in this frenzied situation where it's like they're living this problem. They're so intense. They are attacking this problem violently. And that's all they talk about. It's like a one-trick pony, and I love it. The one-trick pony is like a baby unicorn in a rocket ship ready to go to the moon. So I can personally say I vouch for this founder. I vouch for this team in the way they've interacted with me and the way they're intense, they're execution-oriented, and they're relentless and resourceful. I can't give a better endorsement, which lends itself to why this startup is experiencing success. And I want the rest of you founders out there, to take a page out of this and say, hey, what can I do to get my startup in the market, get that traction going, as we're going to see right now. Here's the go-to market strategy. Use a proven process, like the headline, for launching apps, discover ideal users, maximizing LTV CAC, and adding a K factor. One thing, I don't know what the K factor is. That's where you lost me just a little bit. But the fact that this headline up top here actually explains to me a strategy. This is not just a laundry list. And now I've got steps for this go-to-market strategy and what the goals are. And I've got all this information down here. What I like about this slide, even though it's a lot more dense than I recommend, the headline tells me what I want to read, and then it's got highlights of these 3-4 phases, and that makes me want to read the rest of it. So we've got basically a funnel to get to more information to the fine print, and that is a completely fair way, because an investor might just read this up at the top and read this part and say, okay, I'm moving on. I don't need to know the rest for now. Or the investor may say, that's impressive. Let me read the rest of it. Competition. You all know me, everyone. If you hang around a long time, you either got one of these matrix graphs like this, where you put the benefits on the side, then you got your competition, and then you got your checks and your X's. You can do one of those, but I love it when a quadrant model makes sense. And it's not just everybody else is bad, we're good. So if you look at this, we have, okay, competition, equities, then we've got real estate focus. That makes sense. It's not good or bad. It's just the competition is equities. We do real estate. And then retail user and accredited investors. That is distinct differentiation between the two. And I got Casa shares up here. And I love the fact that we've got assets under management, because it shows me how much potential there is in the market, especially Arrived. And I'm going to have a conversation of why is this kind of up here and why is fundraise in the middle. But I like the fact that at least I know the founder has figured out where they're positioned in the market. The only way to improve this slide is actually have a summary headline sentence start in saying we're the one most focused on retailers where others have a mixture, etc. Retail, real estate focus. That's what I'm looking at here as far as improvement. But that's a nitpick. But a founder, if you're listening, then definitely add something in there so that I can just understand what I'm looking at right away. The team, this slide is really extra busy as well. There are improvements, but once again, summary sensor at the top, proven track record, scaling apps. And here's the founder, my man Mirza. All right, look at this experience he's got going on here. That's a lot. You got Oracle, you've got building SaaS ERP products, 10 years as a real estate investor. That is domain expertise. Then we got another co-founder here with 17 years of property management, domain expertise, founder market fit, over 500 million in assets under management, student housing. Then we have a CTO, and we're mentioning their fractional, which I like, 10 years. The only other thing I would do is have the logos, right? The social proof, that's great. You've got logos like Oracle, spread them out or put them in some type of organized fashion. And then you've got CMO, fractional, 2X founder, raised 9 million, launched TikTok campaign. I put the TikTok logo. And then we've got the advisors happening here. Truthfully, you don't even need this advisors. The team is so strong. You could have a separate page. I would reorganize this slide a little bit just to be clear. But at the same time, everything's been so impressive that I'll actually spend time reading this, because you got the summary headline right here. And I'm excited about this deck. And everybody, if investors are excited and they know what you're talking about, they will read this fine print. But if they're not and they don't want to be bothered and you're making it hard for them because they don't understand the problem or the solution or the market's not big enough, they're not going to read these slides. Traction, so much to love. First, I would make sure that I had those logos. Remember the logos? You had the Fox logo, you had the NBC logo. I would say featured as part of Traction. That's one thing. But remember, we always want to have what is the state of the product. That is going to be important. We want to know users and we want to know growth, or we want to know some type of metrics. And this is the best part. You've got a big headline right here that says 196% average month-over-month transaction volume growth before bringing on our CMO in May. That's going to be interesting what happens after bringing on the CMO, as we saw on the team slide. We got the working mobile app. Check. I know what is the state of the actual startup. Paid user demand. I've got users, over 100 paying users. Average order is growing, so I got the growth handled. And then we got the revenue. Very straightforward. Now, here's the power move here. I've got an actual graph that's granular, not just monolithic. It doesn't just say, oh, we've got X hundreds of thousands of dollars of assets under management. Just very straightforward. This is what we've done. I would have brought in assets under management as we saw on the previous slide, which is fine, but you've already mentioned over there, so I'm going to let that go, but you can consolidate over here. But here's the real cool thing, everyone. I'm actually going to ask about this. Why are we flatline here? And it's not to the detriment, because look, I've got this. And what this founder has done is included the metrics that are not vanity metrics. So many founders put in vanity metrics and say, we have this many users on our app. Let's talk about this for a moment. If this startup told me we have 10,000 users on our app and nobody invested, then who cares? So you got someone to download your app, great. But the fact that we're actually talking about transaction volume and how much people are investing, that's a metric that investors want to know. And we got volume and transaction numbers, and we are going up into the right transaction numbers. And I want to know what this is. But at the same time, if my volume caps out at 4,500, remember the previous slide said that's a lifetime value of $600. Therefore, the math checks out, the logic is there. And I know for a fact the founder can talk through it. Why? This is all battle tested, everyone. I'm going to highlight this one more time and be a broken record. If you sit with this founder literally for 5 minutes and you let him talk about everything he knows is going on in the marketplace, his numbers and how he looks at things, you would think to yourself, okay, this founder is impressive. And that's how we know. You can just tell when a founder is either faking it or doesn't know or has gone out and hasn't tested their assumptions, just gone out and said, I'm just going to put this out there in the world and then listen to signals saying everybody thinks it's a good idea. This founder is out there. They are pushing it. They understand talking to users. They are on the front lines. They are selecting the properties. They're working super hard. And when they talk, they basically overload the investor and me as an advisor with all their domain expertise and what is going on up here. That is impressive. And that's why the founder has the ability to simplify this pitch deck, because they can simplify this pitch deck. They can simplify, as we've seen on the website, customer acquisition, messaging to key stakeholders, potential future staff. I love everything about the way this founder is communicating. And I don't need them to have comedic timing or tell good jokes or be entertaining. I want them to be that founder, that guy or girl at the party that can talk about nothing else other than the problem. They're obsessed about the problem. And that's this founder. Once again, big fat endorsement. It's so impressive to me. Funding. We're raising X dollars for Y milestones and Z timeframe. It fits. We're raising $3 million to reach profitability within 12 months. And then Power Move, everyone, raised to date $2.2 million, $2,195,000 to be exact. And then just a very simple use of funds, outcome consistent, month over month growth. And what's next? That's a bit of a roadmap going on. See how simple this slide deck is, because you're getting the investor to just pick up the phone and say, I want more information. I want to break into the unit economics. Let's pop the hood and talk more. I was talking to an investor, general partner of a fund, early stage, pre-seed and seed. And I said, how many deals do you look at a year? He said, 2,000. How many checks you write? 12. That's insane. That is absolutely insane in terms of how many founders that investors look at before they invest. That's the reason it's very rare that I get super psyched and I get amped up and I say, man, I want to invest in this. If I had the dry powder and this was my domain of expertise, I'd totally be invested in this. And I'm more than happy to refer and talk about it and let everybody know you should either be a customer and invest through this company, or you should be an investor and invest in this company, because I'm willing to make that referral. The founder sends me all the right signals. I get the good feels. And the reason for that is It's easy to package up this founder. They've made it as easy as possible, going out there and working hard and trying to generate as much revenue as possible before they have to take in VC amounts of money. And if you look at the way founders been using their resources and have this conversation, you'd be even more impressed. And like I said, if you want an introduction to this founder, you're gonna have to come through me, but more than happy to do that for you. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. Let's encourage this founder and these success stories of raising in this really intense, tough environment. I like it. Top of which, you're going to see their media out there in terms of they're going on podcasts. They're really doing this whole build and fund in public, which we've been talking about here on this channel. So many good things going on. If you're a founder out there and you want your own pitch deck critiqued and reviewed, let me know. Leave a comment here on this video and tell me what you are building. I have a process. I'm going to send you the instructions because I need to make sure that we just don't do the same thing over and over again. I want all of you to go through a bit of process, jump through some hoops, so you have a pitch deck that we can review, we can look at, so it's beneficial for everyone. Because these pitch deck reviews are free. I'm not charging anybody for them. You can watch my YouTube videos for free. So let's make sure that we get the right pitch decks in. You do what you can so we make this a learning experience for all. And I promise that I will help you to the best of my abilities. What's next? You have a choice. You can watch a playlist of all the other pitch deck reviews that I've done, or you can take my first video in terms of the initial starter deck and what you want to do for that introductory screener pitch deck and all the slides that you need. I made it as easy as possible for you just to follow along. Check all that out. And like I said, do me a favor, share this with other people, especially other founders who need to learn how to do pitch decks. Thanks for hanging out with me on this pitch deck critique and review. I'll see you in the next one.